Welcome, everyone. My name is Shiraz Ahmed, and I'm an intern for the Archive of Documentary Arts at the Rubenstein Rare Books and Manuscripts Library at Duke University. Joining me is David Fisher, a documentary filmmaker based in Tel Aviv, whose film The Round Number has been selected as one of our 2023 Collection Awards recipients. The Round Number follows Fisher's investigation into the historical figure of 6 million European Jews killed during the Holocaust. The provocative documentary premiered in 2021 and was selected to be archived at the Rubenstein with three other awardees. Thanks for being here, David.
Thank you for selecting my film to your collection. I'm honored, and I'm happy to share with you my views about my work.
Awesome, thank you. So, just to jump right in, what was the starting point for the round number when you decided to turn this question about the 6 million figure into a feature-length investigation?
Well, it started with one of my previous films, 6 million, in which I followed my father's diary um, regarding the 1 year he endured the forced labor camps, forced labor Nazi camps during the Second World War. And he didn't speak too much about his experiences while he was alive, but after he died, I found this diary beside his bed. He was writing it in the last couple of years before he passed away. And what I found was that he was released from one of the last camps that were released during the war, in the very last day of the, or official day of the war, May 45. And he was one of the last people, one of the last inmates that left the camp. And he was like very, very thin, a skeleton, and he just walked a few yards, a few meters, and sit down, leaning over the tree. And he was lucky enough that an American jeep passed by and took him to the hospital, and therefore he recovered and immigrated to Israel and made his family, and I'm one of his sons. And after making this film, and I called it 6 million because I knew the figure 6 million stands for the number of the Jews who perished during the war. And for me, it was like he could have been the 6 million if he would have died at that moment, but he didn't, and I'm lucky. So following this diary and his story, once I finished the film, I was left with a question of actually why 6 million and why he is the 6 million. Who are the 6 million? Who is the last one? Who is the 6 million number that he follows? And I got to have lots of questions about this number, and I found out that there are many different answers among the historians, and there are not too many definitions or strict or really good answers for my question. So there is not even a definition of what is the Shoah, the Holocaust, in terms of time, of period of time. When does it start and when did it end? And other questions which came to my mind were like, for example, who counted? How did he count? Or they? What was the method of counting? Who was counted? And etc. So I was a little bit reluctant at the beginning to start my journey because I felt that survivors who are still alive might be offended by my question because I'm questioning the symbol of what they endured, the symbol of 6 million that stands for the Holocaust, for the Shoah. But then I figured out that my father would have encouraged me to ask these questions, and therefore I jump started and embarked on this mission to tell this story. I understood that the important issue was actually asking the questions. I was not really optimistic that I will find answers, and I was not there to find this answer, but I said that everything should be asked, and especially when you feel like the establishment, in this case, the establishment of the Shoah, the institutions, the historians, others, are keeping this information, a lot of information under the chest, and they would not, I would say, give it for free at the moment. So I had to delve into this question in order to find answers.
Wonderful. So, I mean, you visit a lot, you talk to a lot of notable historians and visit a lot of historical places in the film. But the first scene begins at kind of an innocuous glasses shop in Germany, I believe called 6 Million Glasses. So, how
Yes.
did you come upon the shop and why did you start the cinematic journey there?
I was looking for all different phenomena that used the number 6 million since the Holocaust. And there were different musicians. One had wrote music or a record that called 6 million Ways to Die. And the other one was 6 million Ways to Live. And while looking for all these kind of phenomena, I understood that 6 million is much more than just a statistic number. It has become a symbol that was engraved in the collective memory of not only Jews but lots of other peoples worldwide. And I started with German because I felt like asking them these questions was a good opening to understand that I'm going to ask questions. So and and beyond that, also cinematically speaking, it I don't have too many scenes in this film. It is mainly based on interviews. It is mainly kind of talking heads and archive materials, and a few here and there moments of reality which I followed. So this was really a scene which I felt like cinematically is good to open with because it gives you the best entrance into this puzzle or into this labyrinth of so many questions.
Awesome. I mean, it's a beautiful scene and a really captivating introduction to what you're right, most of which is you visiting these historians and the various sites to learn more about the figure.
Yeah,
Speaking of which,
I
oh, pl-
also I remember entering the shop with a lot of reluctancy, with a lot of suspicious, not knowing who are the owners. Are they neo Nazis? Are they right wing people? Are they ancestors of Nazi families, etc.? And I went out of the shop really embarrassed because I kind of start asking myself, does this number belong only to the Jews and only Jews can use it? And when I got their answers, like the idea for this title of the shop came from the television series $6 Million Man, I understood that it's either ignorance or I would say like there was no evil there, and this was on one way encouraging, and on the other it was like a shame that German young people do not really relate to their own history.
right, right, right. So you talk about being afraid to offend survivors by, producing making this documentary. But at several points in the film, when you're talking to the historians, some of them are a little anxious about your questioning and push back, saying you're the only one asking this question. So I guess my question is, how did you get in the room, and how have you managed those relationships since then?
I must tell you that it was clear to me, it was also clear to the historians that I'm not lessening the crime and I'm not doubting the figure. I rather would say it is a ratification of the number than putting it into a question. And the question was not, statistically speaking, were they only 5 billion, 4 million, or maybe more, maybe 7 or 8 billion. It was more a question of understanding a cultural issue of a number that becomes a symbol and an issue that is, I would say, stands for much more than just the number. So when it is out of the context of the film, it could have sound bitter or bad that I'm questioning the number. But once you understand my journey, which is trying to ask questions and trying to I would say find the way that such a number becomes so strong in our history, it was clear to all historians and others that I'm not there to doubt or I'm not there to deny the Holocaust. I'm Jewish. As I said, I'm second generation for Holocaust survivors. I still have my issues with the German history and with this part of the spirit of time in history. So I think that the doors were open.
Awesome. Did you feel like there's historians, there's journalists, there's anthropologists, and now we have documentary artists such as yourself examining similar issues from different angles. How did you feel you were approaching the issue different than a historian would?
Oh, first of all, I'll tell you, I'm a storyteller.
Hmm.
I deconstruct a topic to construct a narrative. And I believe that a documentary has a point of view and should not pretend to be objective. So it is a journey. You must jumpstart from curiosity, and one should allow himself to be surprised. So I don't have the discipline. I'm not using the discipline of historians, of researchers of anthropology field or sociology field. They have their own way of researching, but I'm more kind of free spirit in the sense that I can allow myself to tell a story and not to prove anything that has to be checked. In the ways that the academia would have checked it. Um, uh, um, it is kind of an interdisciplinary work that involves all other disciplines. And, and my role was to navigate among them towards my target. And most important is self-reflection, because one should ask himself why he wants to make this film or a certain film he makes or tell a specific story in order to find the strength to investigate the uninvestigable. And this is what I felt like I'm daring to go on a path that others might follow. I'm not sure I had followed any specific discipline when I made this film.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely true. Your comments on being a storyteller and approaching with a sense of where you're going. I think we see that shared amongst the awardees this year. So how has the film's been out for a few years now? How has it been received in Israeli society?
Uh, Mixed feelings. It was critically acclaimed. It was, I believe, the first 60-minute documentary that film critics reviewed and not television people reviewed it, because normally
Oh,
editors would send TV critics for reviewing such a film. And I was and while the film was on, I was asked for many Q&As because people had a lot of questions and were looking to discuss them rather than asking for answers. So I guess historians found it difficult to think out of the box. So there were those who stood for it and others less so.
very interesting. Well, so now it's hopefully going to get a new life within the David M. Rubenstein Library, where so our documentary archive is both to archive major works of documentary arts, but also to make those works available in the process of those making those works available to researchers to better understand the documentary arts and maybe some of the history you're covering here. So, with that in mind, what has working on the film taught you about the study and teaching of the Holocaust that may inform those interested in the narrative of telling these stories?
So by asking questions about the number, its origins and significance, I think that we raise a host of questions about how we account for history in general and the Holocaust specifically. I think that it may be ultimately about the impossibility of ever grasping entirely such an historical event. But our attempts, and my film is one of them, to grapple with it brings us more deeply into the reality of it. And I would say that my next film will examine another symbol of the Holocaust, the survivor, messenger, and the writer and the Nobel Prize laureate Elie Wiesel, who was, I would say, a thinker, a great teacher, mentor, a philosopher, and was also constantly questioned about what he wants to achieve and what he achieved. So I feel like, going into researching the Holocaust has its symbols, but me as a filmmaker, as a curious person, as a creative person, look behind the scenes, behind the curtains, into the reality to find other questions. And this is what I'm trying to actually to tell both filmmakers and history students and historians and others. And if I I can tell you the story where I got a lot of courage from, was the physician, a Jewish physician, Isidore Rabi. And he was also a Nobel Prize winner. And he was once asked, how did you make it? I mean, what is the secret of your success? And he said, when I was a child in Brooklyn, in a Jewish neighborhood, all kids came home and their mothers used to ask them, what did you learn today in school? My mother asked me, what did you ask today in school?
Oh, wow. I love that. That's great. Well, and your next film sounds like it's going to be really fascinating too. And I mean, that one you're dealing with a symbol who is also a person, which throws in all sorts of complexities, I'm sure.
Yes. Uh,
Awesome.
I what I appreciate, by the way, I appreciate very much the fact that the film travels even to Duke University and was selected to your collection uh, because it's a long way to do, and you never know if your film will be bound or you will confined into one territory, or will it travel outside of this territory. So the first time I remember one of my previous films was selected to the Independent Lens series on a PBS, the film Lab Inventory, uh, where I made a search for my missing sister, taught me that the more personal, the more universal. And this is why one of the reasons I was making the film in a way involving my father and also my brother.
Right. Well, I mean, it sounds like this is, I mean, like you said, this is a trend of in your work. Do you feel like, does your family ever get tired of having a documentary filmmaker in the family?
Sure they are. Sure they are. Well, they are tired, but they are always curious what will be my next project. So it goes both ways.
I'm
Uh,
sure. As are we all. Well, thanks for joining me. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the selection or the film or what people can take away from this conversation?
no, but I really, truly, honestly invite each and every one of you to drop me an email, ask questions, show interest, and I'm always happy to share ideas and knowledge and my attitude towards both towards and mainly storytelling, but also topics that I was involved with.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. Thank you for your generosity. I'm going to cut it here.